All right, all right. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Dads Who Mosh. My name is Nate. Might be a little misleading. Nate who moshes, being a dad who moshes, because as I was just chatting with somebody earlier today, I don't do a lot of moshing anymore. I do sometimes, right? I will jump into a pit from time to time, but uh, sometimes I'm like, maybe a better name would be like Nate who hangs out on the side wall, or like Nate who hangs out and like, crosses his arms and just like bobs his head. But you know what? I think I can maintain the name Dad's Humash as long as I just throw down every once in a while. I did realize the last couple of shows I've gone to, and I have gotten in the pit. I have recognized that I need to up my cardio game a little bit for sure. That and we were with our kids at like this indoor sports thing here in Arizona. And it's like they've got like batting cages, they've got like, football things, and they have this basketball court that's like kind of on trampoline. So you can kind of like, bounce around and, dunk the ball and stuff like that. And it's you play in like 3 minute games. And I realized very quickly that it was like being, thrown down for like one song at a boundary show. I was like suddenly out of breath. I was like, am I dying right now? Is this what death feels like? Is this a heart attack? So, definitely to up my cardio game. I have a really good friend who like runs marathons and just loves to run. He travels the world and like everywhere he goes, he runs. Like if he has a long layover in an airport, he runs through the airport. Like it's nuts. It's like the only time I ever see him anymore is if there's like a marathon happening in my city, and so then he'll come. But he just loves running. And I was listening the other day to a podcast, the One Life, One Chance podcast, with Toby. Is it Toby? Who is it from H2O? Yeah, Toby, from H2O, who I'm going to see in May next month. So I'm super stoked to see those guys at the Nile here in Mesa. But he was interviewing Travis Barker from Blink 182, and, pretty much any song that has a drum beat on it. Travis Barker was probably involved with. But like he was just talking about running, and he's just like, I love running. And I'm just like, man, do people really love running? But I feel like, and who knows, maybe this is just a passing phase and I'll get over it. But I feel like in the last like couple of months, I think due in part to the fact that I'm not drinking anymore, um, is part of it. And I have just like all this pent up energy. And like I've been going to the gym, but like I had for a while, I had a personal trainer. And I just like I don't do that anymore. I've been just taking like, what I learned from him and just trying to apply it to my for myself at the gym. And I'm realizing like I kind of plateau after a while, and I'm just like I don't push myself that hard if it's just me. And I think I realize like when I've got like all this energy that like I need to get out sometimes, I'm like, man, maybe I need to maybe I need to try to run. I mean, people are running are in good shape, and maybe that's, kind of one of the missing things for me, just to like get in as good a shape as possible at this age. And maybe I need to start running. So, we'll see. We'll see. I'm gonna try it. I like ran a mile at the gym the other day, and it was all right. It probably took me longer than it should have, but I did it. And then just maybe try to keep adding on and adding on and adding on. I don't know. We'll see. But like I said, going, throwing down at shows and like playing basketball with my kids, I realized like, dude, I gotta like up the cardio here, or as my heart's gonna give out on me. So, um, yeah, we'll see if I can get that up and running. Get it? Lol, lol, lol. But anyways, yeah, last week went to the Poison the Well show. And it was so much fun, man. It was like, this sounds really cheesy, but it was like a magical night for like hardcore kids who are now adults and dads. Um, It's at the Nile Theater in Mesa, which is just, again, I mean, it's the background here for my screen if you're watching on YouTube. It is just like it's a magical place, dude. The Nile is a magical place. Like the bands that have come through the Nile, like the list is like almost anybody you could imagine in the punk hardcore scene, they've played a show at the Nile at some point. It's such a huge place. It's such a huge place for like bands that are growing. But the cool thing is bands still come play here. Like I watched, the Poison the Well tour stop by here, and then they played in Hollywood the next night, and there's like thousands of people there, but they still stop and play here at the Nile, which I love, man, because it's a historic building, not just like because it's really old, but it has a special place, I think, in like the punk hardcore scene and its history. So it's just such a magical place here, man. It's so much fun. It's the only stop on that Poison the Well tour that didn't have a barrier. So that's really fun too. It's the 25th anniversary of their album, The Opposite of December, which my Jesse, I was talking with my buddy Jesse, who's been on the podcast, who saw that same tour in Hollywood the next night. He's like, okay, so is The Opposite of December on your list of perfect albums? And I was like, I think it is. I think it's made it. I think it's made it to that list. I was kind of slow to the game with Poison the Well. Like I knew they were around, right? I mean, obviously was like aware of Poison the Well. I didn't really start listening to them until their album versions, which is like really like all late in the game. So like if the Opposite of December came out in 99, versions came out like 8 years later, and I really liked versions. Like I remember when versions came out. I mean, I had known of Poison the Well before. Um, but it was kind of more, I don't know, for whatever reason I just missed them in like the metal core scene. I was really into like Norma Jean, and I was listening to a lot of like I was listening to like a lot of like Every Time I Die and stuff like that, a lot of like Glassjaw, um back in those days. So I don't like Refused. That was kind of like the metal core, like Converge. That was like the metal core I was listening to. And for some reason, I just kind of missed Poison the Well until like Virgins came out in 2007. And then I went back and listened to everything and obviously ran into, The Opposite of December, which came out quite a while before that. And I was like, this is awesome. Like the sound, I love, like I can't really describe it. I love the sound of like late 90s, early 2000s hardcore slash metalcore. I love the sound. It's almost like listening to something on vinyl. Like it's just the distortion is fuzzier, it's nastier, it's dirtier. It's like bands would do songs in like one take. Like when Norma Jean did Bless the Martyr and Kiss the Child, they did the whole album in one take. It doesn't like, and I'm not one of those like purists that's like, oh, I don't like it if it's like overproduced. Like I really do appreciate good production for albums. And I think they have their own place, but I love like the nasty, dirtier sound of the late 90s, early 2000s hardcore and metalcore. I just like, I don't know, there's something about it. Like I like that it doesn't sound refined. I like that, the clean vocals kind of suck sometimes, because I can't sing, but it's like I love that. And so The Opposite of December, I think it's on the list now. I think after finally seeing Poison the Well live and being at that show, I think, and recognizing the impact that that band has had on the hardcore and metalcore scene, and the fact that they're still kicking it, dude, like 25 years later, and obviously they've been a band like longer than that, is pretty impressive. And it was super fun being there. I mean, going back to like, before Poison the Well came on, Teenage Wrist played, which Teenage Wrist was kind of on my radar like a couple of years ago. And so, but I hadn't listened to much of their stuff. I knew that they had a song with the vocalist from Fear Before the March of Flames, and I was really into Fear Before the March of Flames when those guys were around. And when I got to the show, they had this guy running the merch table. for Teenage Wrist. And then one of their newer songs that they played, the guy like jumped up on stage and started singing for the song. And I was like, man, this guy sounds familiar. And that's who it was. It was, I can't remember his name, but it was the guy, it was the vocalist from Fear Before the March of Flames, must just tour around with Teenage Wrist now and did a song with them and must, run their merch and stuff like that. And then just does that song. So like that was super cool. That was like this cool throwback to, just a band that I listened to 20 years ago. That was really cool. And then, Better Lovers played, and I always love seeing Better Lovers. Jesse messaged me and he was like, Better Lovers is not a dad band. And I was like, I know. I feel like I'm gonna be backpedaling on what I said, a few episodes ago about Better Lovers. And it's not that Better Lovers is a dad band, it's that they have a lot of fans who are also like fans of dad bands. So it's, I don't know. That wasn't really the case here though at this show. That's what's interesting is when I saw Better Lovers when they were headlining, there was like a lot more, like people that it's like they just came to Better Lovers after they went to a Stained concert or something like that. Like that was kind of the crowd. This was not like that. I mean, the energy was different. I think it was better. They weren't the headliners, so they didn't play as long, but I feel like the energy was better for Better Lovers and just a super fun show. And the really cool thing was too, I know the last time I saw Better Lovers, I was talking about it on the podcast and I was talking about how like it kind of makes me miss Every Time I Die. Um, I looked, oh, and if you're listening, Better Lovers is basically like most of Every Time I Die. And they just added Greg from the Dillinger Escape Plan. And I can't remember his name. He's like a big time producer, um, but in the hardcore scene. But anyways, Will Putney, um, and so it's kind of like Every Time I Die with like other influences. But what was cool was I looked over at one point when Better Lovers was playing, and Andy Williams was in the crowd, and Andy was one of the guitar players for Every Time I Die. And it was just cool. It was cool to see like him there supporting his friends, hanging out, watching his old bandmates play. I know he's got a band now too. So that was just cool. It's just like, and then like Poison the Well comes on, and you look around, and dude, like Poison the Well looks old. We're old now in the crowd. It just like it was so cool. Like I love this scene so much, man. I love the hardcore scene so much. I love the community that it creates. I just when it was cool too because like there's a bunch of dudes in like their 30s and 40s and 50s even, but there were like some kids there too. Like some dads brought their kids. And what was funny too is I was wearing a shirt for the band On Broken Wings. So it just says like On Broken Wings on the front of the shirt. And I had like three or four people come up to me and say something about that shirt, like, oh, that's a sick shirt, man. But like a couple of them were young. Like I call them kids, but like, they're probably in their like 20s, maybe. Um, like they got like the dangly earrings and like, look super trendy, but they're like, oh, that's a sick band. Like I really like those. I was like, really? Like, I mean, so it's cool that like the youth, I mean, so one of the kids like came up to me and said like, oh, that's a cool shirt. And I'm like, dude, this kid's got to be like 18 years old, but it's so sick that they're at a Poison the Well show and they like On Broken Wings. And then he like turned around and left it, and he was wearing a hoodie that said The Bled on it. And I'm like, The Bled hasn't been around forever. So what I'm trying to say is the kids are going to be okay. The hardcore scene is alive and well, and it's cool to be in that environment where you've got like one generation of like hardcore kids that are now like grown up, and they're celebrating this album that they listened to when they were teenagers, and they're just remembering that time and celebrating that and the impact it had on them. But then on like the other side of the room, you've got like this young crowd that appreciates the history of the scene. You get all these old bandmates coming back together for the Better Lovers set. It's just a super cool thing, man. I saw that the singer from the 1975 was at the Poison the Well show in Hollywood. So, I mean, I don't, it's the hardcore scene is cool, man. It's always been cool. It's doing some cool things. It's growing. It's kind of emerging from the underground, but in a way that I think is just like maintaining its heart, and it's able to stay, true to itself. And a lot of these bands are able to stay true to themselves and not necessarily, change just for the sake of being more popular. And a lot of people are discovering it and realizing that this is pretty cool. So I love that. I'm all about it. I know there's some purists out there that are like, "Ooh, no, like whatever." They don't like it when I don't know. I like people outside of there, like people that are throwing fits about Travis Barker wearing his wife's or Travis Barker's wife, Kourtney Kardashian wearing like his t-shirts and stuff like that. I'm just like, I don't know, whatever, man. Like maybe I doubt she's really into that music, but it's like, who cares? Like she's going, like they were at a Knocked Loose show, watching Speed play last year or something like that. And so I don't know, man. It's cool. I think it's cool. I think the hardcore scene deserves to be on on a bigger stage. And it's meant a lot to a lot of people over the years. And so I think it's a cool thing to see all of that. Um, but anyways, yeah. What else is going on here? I'm gonna go see Architects here in Phoenix when they come through. I think this summer. So I'm excited to see that. It's cool because they are playing at a venue called the Van Buren in downtown Phoenix, which is not a big venue. At least like all things considered, it's a bit bigger um, than the Nile. And I don't know. It might. I can't imagine it's any bigger than like the Marquee in Tempe. So it's not very big. I mean, the like architects are playing stadium shows, at least in the UK and Europe and stuff like that. And I've seen them play really massive headliners in the US. So it's super cool that they're playing the Van Buren. I think Era is opening for them and another band. I don't really I never really listened to Era. But I'm super stoked to see Architects. I loved having or what is the name of their most recent album? I'm just really killing it with memory recently. I was telling my wife the other day that like I'm at the stage now where I am like walking into a room and forgetting what I'm there for. Even worse than that, I'm like starting sentences and I don't remember where I was going with the sentence. It's really bad. The Sky, the Earth, and All Between is the name of Architect's newest album. It's awesome. I was talking about it. I was talking about it with my friend Jake that was on the podcast a few episodes ago. It's like a perfect album. It's so good. And so I'm really excited to see them headline and support that album. Got a few, like I said, Bouncing Souls are coming through town with H2O and the Adolescents and a few other punk bands. So I'm excited to see those guys. I'm going to see Terror and Nails later this year. They're opening for Obituary. And then what else is coming? Oh, so speaking of the Nile every year for a while now has been putting on this festival called Within These Walls. And I'm looking it up right now, and they just announced the lineup for Within These Walls this year in September, and it's a killer lineup, dude. Bane is playing, which Bane is always so fun to see, especially at the Nile. God's Hate is playing. Bleeding Through is playing. The Warriors are playing. And they're going to be playing their album War is Hell. So I'm so excited to see the Warriors. I know I've kind of like in the past, I've said, like when I was talking about Norma Jean playing at Furnace Fest this year and, doing their whole Oh God, the Aftermath album to kind of celebrate its anniversary. There's sometimes where I'm like, I wish I could hear songs from like other albums, which Poison the Well did, which was really fun. But this album by the Warriors is a great album. It might be one of the on my list of perfect albums. So I'm excited to see that. The Beautiful Ones, Des Madre is coming. I love Des Madre. Super excited to see those guys. Contention is another band that's going to be there. And Jesse, who's been on the podcast, introduced me to Contention. I think they're playing at Furnace Fest. So Contention is super sick. Such Gold is playing, which is so funny because Such Gold is like a pop punk band. And I can't remember the name of this, whatever album it is, but I remember the last time I listened to Such Gold was like back in the day where I think I downloaded the album from iTunes or something like that, maybe even illegally. Like if it was still, I feel like it was later than like the LimeWire days, but I had their album. I had it on a burned CD and I put it in my wife's car when we first bought it. And the CD had been out for a while at that point, but we bought my wife's car in 2019. And like I said, the album's been out for a while, but I put that CD in my wife's car, and it's the only CD. Like nobody listens to CDs anymore. But if I switch like the input on, her car to CD, that's what plays is this Such Gold album. So, super excited. End of Days. That's a local band here in Arizona. So, and other ones, but go check it out. Go check out Within These Walls, in the Nile Theater. Super cool festival. And if you are anywhere close to the greater Phoenix area, even like California, Vegas, we're not too far. It's an awesome, awesome lineup. So, super excited for that. And then, of course, Furnace Fest. I just keep getting more and more excited about that. Um, they just announced Living Sacrifice, which is a pretty, an old metalcore band. So I'm excited to see those guys too. And still waiting. They said they've got more surprises. So we'll see if is the Chariot going to be one of them. Still a chance. There's still a chance. I feel like the surprises coming up are going to be even bigger. So yeah, that's it as far as, the world of, what's going on in the heavy music scene, at least, in my own life. I want to go over another perfect album today. And this one is connected to Furnace Fest. And it is an album by Jimmy Eat World, and it is their album Futures. Um, their album Futures is on my list of perfect albums. I think a lot of what, at least for me, a lot of what defines a perfect album has to do with like what was going on in life when it came out, and that's part of it. And especially like, with bands that have a lot of really good albums and people will argue over like which one is their best album. I think a lot of it is pretty subjective. A lot of it is like, well, where were you when this album came out? What was going on in your life when this album came out? This album came out in January of 2004. So when this came out, I was in high school. What year was I in high school? I graduated in '07, so '06, '07. Oh five, oh six. So I was a sophomore in high school when this album came out. And it was one of those where, I loved the song Like Nothing Wrong. I loved, Futures. I loved the song Pain. But then what's funny is my junior year, so a year after this album came out, I met Jana, who now is my wife, and we started dating. And so when we started dating, I made her, mixtapes or mixed CDs, with cheesy, emo love songs and stuff like that. So, a couple of the songs that, her and I just really love that brings us back to when, we first met, and you're young, stupid teenagers in love and stuff like that. I made her a CD. It has songs like, Night Drive and 23 and Drugs Are Me. And so what I love is when, just that's kind of why this album is so perfect for me. I love it. It brings me back to being a sophomore in high school. And it's great because like they've got the fun, fast, like pop punk songs that I would skate around to and run around with my friends and drive around with my friends and, go do stupid teenager stuff that we shouldn't have been doing while listening to Jimmy Eat World. And then, on the flip side, it's got those songs that I remember like meeting my wife, the fact that she put up with me and my like, the weird music that I listened to. It's got so many points of connection for me. And I love Jimmy Eat World, and it's a perfect album for me. It's nostalgic enough, but the songs themselves are good enough. They're so fun to sing along to. It's one of those I like albums that I can listen to with my kids in the car too, because let's be honest, a lot of the music I listen to, I can't listen to with the kids in the car, because otherwise they're going to be, repeating some unsavory phrases. But this one you can show it to your kids. Um, when Jana and I went and saw Jimmy Eat World a couple of years ago, when them and Manchester Orchestra played, they played the song 23. And it's just like, I'm getting all cheesy. It was this magical moment. We got to hear this song that we had, we played for each other when we were in high school, and it was just super cool. So, I love that album. Go check that album out by Jimmy Eat World, Futures. To me, it's peak Jimmy Eat World. It is what is best about that band. So unskippable tracks, perfect from start to finish. Love that album. Um, so yeah, anyways, um, switching gears as we do from talking about music to talking about, what it's like to be a dad and, the mental health struggles and things like that. Been kind of a weird, couple of weeks for me, just like with ups and downs. It's wild. Um, I did a podcast a couple weeks ago about having a lighthouse, like something for you to look forward to, whether it's, you got a regular meeting with a friend of yours or you've got a regular, standing meeting with a therapist or something like that. Um, my wife and I, this last Sunday, um, we go to church here in Arizona, and we have this really awesome church. And we Sunday morning woke up, and it had kind of been like a long weekend. Had some stuff going on with the kids, and we had some plans where we are going to be driving out of town anyways later that day. So we just decided to stay home instead of going to church. And just to, I guess without getting too detailed, we have like this really nasty history when it comes to church. Um, and it made it so that for a while, like we never went to church and kind of just like didn't think we ever would. And I think that was kind of one of the surprising things with our move to Arizona is we found this really amazing church. It's called Mission Church in Arizona. If you're a church person, or just thinking about church, want to check something out, it's amazing. We love it. If you come say hi. We love it there. And I've been loving going, and I think I didn't realize how good it was for me to go there every week until I didn't. There was, like last week we skipped and we decided we weren't going to go. And I just like slipped into this crazy, just like valley of depression. And I was like, what in the world's going on? And I was like, I think I realized like that church for me at least has turned into this thing where it's like, an hour and a half where I'm not worrying about work. I'm not worrying about bills. I'm not worrying about life. I'm just like enjoying. And again, like you may not be somebody that's like, you may not be a person of faith or, whatever. And that's fine. I'm just saying, like, I think I realized for me that is a lighthouse for me. Being in this community, all of this sounds maybe cliche, but it's like being part of something that's bigger than you. Um, it's just like it's a good balance of like it's very positive, like it's a positive environment, but at the same time, it is like it holds you accountable. I really appreciate our pastor. His name's Landon. He, like he holds people accountable. He's like, look, man, like this is how you should be living. This is how you love God. This is how you love the people around you. And I'm not here to get super preachy. But he does such a good job of like, it's not just feel good sermons. It's not just like these, self help, like you're awesome kind of sermons. Um, so it's just it's really uplifting. It holds you accountable. And I didn't go, one Sunday, and all of a sudden I'm like, I feel so depressed. I'm like, I think it's because I didn't go to my lighthouse this weekend. So, kind of talked through some things with my wife, about that. And she was really great about it. We just sat in our closet on the floor and just kind of like talked through some things, which was really cool. I really appreciated that from her, just, letting me talk through some things. But it's so frustrating though, man, because like, you're just like, this is so stupid. Like, shouldn't I be able to just be like, we're not going to go to church this weekend and not like spiral into this, pit of depression. But sometimes that just happens, man. And, sometimes that's okay. And I think part of what triggered it too is, I've talked here on the podcast a bit about like the difference now with dads and husbands and like even like wives and moms, like what it takes to raise a family in the US right now. And there were like a couple of things that had happened. One of them was our neighborhood. We live in a cul-de-sac, and our neighborhood, like at least once a month, will just get together, either just like bring some lawn chairs out into the cul-de-sac at night, Or like, this last Saturday we did it in like one of my neighbor's garages because it was pretty windy outside. And everybody just kind of hangs out, which is super cool. It's a really cool thing about my neighborhood that I love. Um, and we were all sitting around, and one of our neighbors, he's like probably in his 60s, him and his wife, and they're both retired. And they kind of snowbird down here. They live in like the Seattle area most of the year, and then they come down here in the winter and leave around May. And they're a great couple. And he was kind of talking about what he did for a living, and they've got kids who are adults now. And he was a food truck. He was a food delivery guy. And so the more I learn about him and his story, which I mean, again, this has nothing to do with him. He's a great guy and it's not his fault, but he drove a delivery truck. So it's like, it's a manual labor job. And he drove a delivery truck with food his entire career. And doing that, he made enough money to pay off their house in the Seattle area early, paid it off early. He was able to retire early. They were able to purchase a second home in Arizona, and they were able to go on like vacations. They went to Mexico every year for a while. They were able to do all these amazing things that, and really, like, they're not living extravagantly, but they're living like the middle class life. Like, they've got a vacation home, they've got, multiple vehicles. They've got a retirement. In fact, they can retire early. And so, like, I got home that night and I'm just like talking to Jan. I'm like, what would that be like? Like, that's the other thing, too. Like, if his name's Terry, like, if Terry, somehow lost his job as a delivery truck driver, guess what? You just go get another job as a delivery truck driver. Like, there's dozens of jobs out there. And when he was in his 20s, 30s, 40s, it was easy. You just go get another job, pays you the same amount of money. You're still paying your really low mortgage rates. You got all your cars paid off, all that stuff. I'm like, man, it is not like his wife didn't have to work. Like, that is not the case anymore. Like, now, if I like, not to get like too, darko depresso, but it's like one of those things where I sit and think, like, if my job like disappeared for whatever reason, I don't know, like, it would be hard pressed to go find another one like it. Um, I mean, definitely would be hard pressed to find one that pays as much. If I was able to live that type of life as a delivery truck driver and my delivery truck company shut down, be like, I'll just go find another one or do some other, entry level job. And, it's not, he wasn't driving semis or anything. He was just driving trucks. So it's kind of depressing to be sometimes like think about the way that things are right now and be like the amount of money that families have to make in order to make it. Like, I think I saw something the other day that if you were to live in Phoenix, which, actually, I mean, we're in the greater Phoenix area, but you had to make like $130,000 a year to be able to afford to live in Phoenix. I mean, 130,000 is probably what, guys in Terry's generation made in like 5 years, if they were lucky, like $130,000. But that's what people here have to make in this generation in 2025. It's what they have to make to just live a normal life. And we're not talking extravagance, we're talking a normal life. And so that gets tough, man. So, I mean, just like, shout out to all the dads out there and the moms. It's not just dads, but moms and dads are usually both working. I know it's tough, man. And I know that weight that's on your shoulders. I know what it's like to be like, man, I'm really grateful for everything that I have, but like I'm balancing, I'm spinning plates here, man. And all it takes is one to get a little wobbly and crash down, and the rest of them are going to come crashing down. And a lot of families have to live with that stress. It's like, yeah, I'm really grateful for the job that I have, but if that were to go away, I don't know what I would do. We'd be strapped. And that's really hard to live with. It's a hard not just economy, it's just a hard world to live in. And so just like shout out to the moms and dads that are out there doing that, working their hardest, providing for their family. It's easy too to just kind of look around and feel like people are just doing better than you, right? Whether it's on social media or, you see the cars that other parents are driving for school pickup and stuff like that, or see the vacations that they go on that you're not going on. It's really easy to get into that comparison game. And that also just like landslides into depression. So one of the things, and this is something that, one of my pastors at church has been encouraging us to live in is this idea of gratitude. Like, keep a journal where you write down things that you are grateful for. It's one of the best ways to combat that depression that comes from this idea of comparison, and not having any but statements in that gratitude. It's like, I'm grateful for this job, but what if it goes away? Like, no, no, no. Like, I'm grateful for the job that I have today, right now. I'm grateful that my wife and my family are healthy right now. I'm grateful that we have a roof over our heads right now. So just being grateful for things, I think, is something that's been super helpful for me. I'm trying to be better at it. Trying to be better. That and my prayer life is another thing. Again, not to get too preachy, but I feel like gratefulness and prayer and like meditation and stuff like that are things that I could be better at. And so working on that. So um, appreciate you guys listening in. Shoot me a message. I mean, I get messages from you guys every once in a while. Let me know what you guys do, when you feel that like coming on and it's like your lighthouse is a few days out still and you don't have anybody to call right now. Like, what do you do to kind of like pull yourself out of that hole? What are some tips and tricks that you guys have that you want to share with the Dads Who Mosh crowd? I would really appreciate hearing that. Maybe I need some of them, but maybe there's somebody out there that needs that help as well. So, like I said, appreciate you guys listening every single episode that we put out. Hit us up at dadswhomosh@gmail.com. Or you can find us on Instagram and now TikTok. Our handle is at dadswhomosh, and I am also on Instagram. My handle is at Nate Who Moshes. Appreciate you guys, like I said, and we'll talk to everybody later.